I just happened to turn my back and he walked away. I could tell him that the suspects escaped.
Wait, are you sure?
Yeah, she's sure, Sam.
No, it's just, I mean, you could lose your job over something like that.
Look, I just want you guys out there doing what you do best. Trust me, I'll sleep better at night. Listen, you need to watch your back. They're going to be looking for both of you right now. Get out of here. I got to radio this in.
Hey, wouldn't happen to know where my car is by chance?
It's at the impound yard on Robertson. Don't even think about it.
It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry. We'll just improvise. I mean, we're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Nice lady.
And for a cop? Does she look familiar to you?
No, why?
I don't know. Anyway, are you hungry?
No.
Man, for some reason, I could really go for some pea soup.
What's up, Supernatural family? It is your boy Matt and Lauren, and we are back with our Supernatural bonus episodes. Welcome to Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about normally comic books, movies, TV shows with a beer. However, today, as you know, we've been doing our weekly recaps of my adventures through Supernatural, and so we're going to talk about Season 2, Episode 5 through Season 2, Episode 10. Buckle up, get in the car, get your best hunting gear. We're going to go on this adventure. But first things first, if you don't know where to find us, go ahead, Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform and including YouTube. And then you can go ahead and find us on social media as well by searching Hops Geek News. We are there. I have been watching Supernatural, like I said, for the first time ever. It's only taken me 3 years, but we're doing it. And we're starting with Season 2, Episode 5. Simon said. Now, I specifically remember this one because the Obi-Wan reference.
Yeah, I knew you would.
So that was good. But why don't you go ahead, take it away, give us the recap, and we'll talk briefly about it. Go through the episodes.
Well, the recap, if people have seen this, it shouldn't take much to jog your memory. This is basically the one they're looking for other kids like them that the Yellow-Eyed Demon might have contacted or did whatever he did, because Matt doesn't know what he did yet. And Andy finds out he has an evil twin. They both have Obi-Wan Kenobi type abilities. Dean thinks he's not so bad, and Sam thinks he's really bad, but his evil powers, his Obi-Wan powers don't work on Sam. And we get to, see all of that. But I do have some fun facts for each of these episodes. So I'll do my fun facts and then you can tell us more of what you liked about it and everything. So all the Star Wars references. So this was actually one of those episodes that I enjoyed much more on my last rewatch because you made me watch all the Star Wars stuff.
Look at that.
And there's even a Clone Wars reference in later seasons. I've posted that on our Instagram like 9 months ago.
Okay.
So yeah, Ahsoka even gets a mention. So all the Star Wars references, there's so many that there's even one on Andy's license plate. It actually says, "Are you Obi-Wan?" The original version of the story was actually pitched by Ben Edlund. So this was one of his first ones that he actually got to write. And later in the future, we meet Carver Edlund, who is a writer, and obviously his name after Jeremy Carver, who's also the showrunner of Doom Patrol now, and Ben Edlund, who are both writers on the show. So his original story involved a deformed twin who convinced his normal-looking brother to be mentally handicapped thanks to their telepathic link. In the finale, the deformed twin should have eaten his sibling. It was John Chabon that helped Edlund boil down the script to the form seen here, which is much better than the catastrophe.
That's dark. Wow.
Whatever that would have come as. Yes. So anybody who has seen the show, Ben Edlund actually came on the Then and Now podcast with Gabe and Chuck and told that story.
Wow.
And they're like, whoa.
That one,
so what'd you think of the version that actually happened?
I mean, I liked this version. It was really cool because they're driving around. They separate, which first things first, anytime the two separate, I'm telling you once again, nothing good happens. And in this case, the car gets stolen because Andy gets out and he's like, "Give me the car." And he's like, "Okay." And then he's like, "You gave the car away?"
Smile on his face.
He freaking Kenobi'd me. And so I liked that. I like when they look in his van and it's just like some creepy stoner shag wagon, basically.
The giant bong.
Yeah.
What did he call that? I forget what he called the bong, but he had a funny name for it.
I forget what it was, but yeah, they open up. He's like, "Is this the van of a murderer?" And you're just like, no chance. So It then turns out that the overly friendly waiter is Andy's twin brother. They were basically, mom died in a fire and they were separated at birth. And Andy didn't know he had a twin. And instead of casually like, hey, I'm your brother, he instead starts to kill people. The twin does. So
Right.
that was a choice. And it culminates. I will say one thing I didn't really like is that he just knew where Dean was with the sniper rifle. Like, interesting, I guess. Whatever. Like, that's just a minor complaint. Like, okay, does he actually have force powers? But
I wonder if he just knew he was in the vicinity and knew that he could outreach. So it was like, if you're in the
Yeah.
area,
that's true.
I don't know.
He can
Maybe
use
he
his,
does have force
he can use his
powers.
mind trick with his actual mind because he gets the girl to almost kill herself. But
I like that they weren't even subtle about it. He literally says to the security guy, "These aren't the droids you're looking for."
yes, I did love that. So the Star Wars references in this were great. Solid episode. I thought it was a decent episode. No complaints there. And but we go into the next episode, which was No Exit, season 2, episode 6, which again, this is more
This
real.
one's creepy.
Yeah, take us away. This is this is more based on real life stuff, which is pretty cool, and it was a pretty creepy episode.
Did you catch the one line when Dean and Jo were in the wall and she's rubbing up in front of him?
No,
And he goes-
I always miss these lines somehow.
He goes, "I should have cleaned the pipes." And she goes, "What?" He's like, "These pipes around here are really dirty," because she was literally like rubbing her ass against his crotch.
Yes.
So yeah, this is the one where pretty blonde girls are going missing in a building, and Joe's the one that actually came up with found the case. And of course her mom, Ellen, doesn't want her to go on the case, but she ends up going anyways. And she ends up getting kidnapped. And it's the first episode, I believe, that they actually mentioned ectoplasm.
They do,
So you get the ectoplasm. Yeah. And which is gross. And this one creeped me out when you saw the guy with the eye and he's in there, and it was so, this one really creeped me out.
This one was just like going through the tight spaces, all that. It was kind of like, ooh.
Well, and the actress even said, even though she wasn't in a coffin, being in the 3 sides of the thing, even with the thing open, was still kind of creepy.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
But my fun fact for this one, so this story was actually based on a real person, which I love when they tie in not just real monsters, but real people, which people can be monsters if we've learned anything from
As we've seen.
Not even the Benders, but the news. So this ghost in this episode is based on a real life historical figure, the serial killer Herman Webster Mudgett, who lived from 1861 to 1896, also known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or as the Winchesters mentioned him, H.H. Holmes. So he did confess to 27 murders, only 9 of which are confirmed. And he actually built a so-called murder castle in Chicago, so he would be able to carry out his crimes in secret. There's evidence that he did use chloroform, and they mentioned that they smell the chloroform.
Yeah.
He was executed by hanging in Philadelphia, and at his request, he was buried in concrete so no one would be able to molest his corpse, which is interesting because that is why they then can't salt and burn his bones, but they do bury his spirit in concrete with salt.
That was a cool callback because they circled
poetic justice.
Yeah, they trapped him in salt circle, and he's like, no, and then they back up. He steals a cement truck and buries him in cement. And Carrie was like, where they get the cement truck from? I was like, that's your problem. You're the one telling me, like, any complaint that I have was like, that's your problem. I was like, this is your problem. They're like, yeah, the cement truck. And I was like, all right. But are Dean and Joe, are they going to become a thing at any point?
So I can tell you if you want
You
to.
can just
I don't
tell
really.
me. Like, I don't care. That's not really a spoiler.
They flirt a lot, but they never get together. I always felt she seemed a little bit young for him.
I did too. That's why it's like there's that tension there. So I was like,
right. So they went back and forth. I felt like brother and sister, whatever. So originally they had told her act like the girl version of Dean, and she tried to do that, but she ended up getting written off beforehand because apparently the fans were not in love with her.
Also, I noticed now she's gone off hunting. Does that mean she's never coming back?
No, we see her again, but I think she was supposed to be more of like a love interest for him, and the fans were not a fan of it. No pun intended.
Ah, got you. Well,
but she does come back, and we do see her and Ellen again. I love Ellen. I think Ellen's awesome.
The best. Ellen's. I love like the guy in the chair. Right? There's always a guy in the chair that helps him out, and that's what Ellen is so far. So I'm loving her. I'm loving Ash. And this episode was cool. I thought, it was just kind of like a cool, all right, sweet. I love the callbacks to H.H. Holmes. And it was funny. He's just like sledgehammering the walls in this apartment building and nobody had any question. There was nobody else around, which was a choice.
Well, she paid him all the money too. She's like, "Hi, honey." I'm like,
yeah,
you're
like,
giving him all that money.
All the money, like all that stuff was just kind of like, choices are made here and not very smart ones. But at first I was like, where's Ellen? She said because they solved the case and then they were in the car and I was like, did they just forget that Ellen was on the next flight out? And then they panned to her and I was like, okay, good. Because that would have been so messed up.
Wasn't that when they played As Cold as Ice?
Yeah, because that would have been like, wow, she flew out there on the next flight and then they already left and then she's just standing at the airport like, where, this is before Uber and stuff. So Uber taxis existed, but yeah, I would have been like, man, that's cold. Like, geez. And so good episode. I will say the next episode 7, I enjoyed a lot because it's about, it opens with Sam and Dean getting arrested. And I was like, ha 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 ha.
We all told you, just keep watching.
I was like, they got him. They got you, you son of a bitch.
So this episode was what my beer was, what made me pick the beer I'm drinking. So the beer I'm drinking is the Green Lab Experimental Hop Series. And I picked it because it has green in it. And who is in this episode? Linda Blair. Yes. What is she known for? Green puke.
It took me a minute. So I'm going to steal this one real quick. But guest star Linda Blair, the female cop, she had been approached about appearing in an episode in season 1. She turned it down as she had been actively trying to disassociate herself from the horror genre because she was in The Exorcist. She was the girl in The Exorcist who gets
Regan.
Possessed. Yes. And so even though she was a self-professed fan of the show, she was very touched. However, when showrunner Eric Kripke personally pitched this episode to her, it changed her mind. And I'm glad it did. It's sad that she would try to distance herself from the horror genre. I get it. Like, she was always known as Regan from The Exorcist, like one of the freakiest movies of all time to me. And I didn't recognize, of course, you're like, do you recognize her? Did you catch this? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, that's her. I had no idea. See, I had no idea. And so it's cool. All these cameos come into play, but this one's about, there's a girl killing people, slitting their throats, all that stuff. They get the handcuff marks on their wrist. They think Dean did it because he was caught basically at the scene, but as a setup kind of. And it turns out that the male cop, you knew right away he was a D-bag.
Yeah.
He was up to no good. And sure enough, he was the one killing the girls. And the demon wasn't a demon after all. It was a girl who was warning, hey, this is happening.
Death omen. Yeah.
And Linda Blair was romantically involved with the cop. And so she was the next one to be killed. The necklace, everything. So it was really cool. But they cleared him of all those murders, but then they brought the St. Louis murder back and like, we can't clear that one. All right, you get out of here.
I mean, they can't. They don't have jurisdiction.
I know, but it was very like Fast and Furious style of like, all right, you get out of here. It's like, but he's still wanted for murder. They know he's alive. They can't just keep bouncing around. So in my head, I was like,
but it's once you get the truth is out their speech, though, they're like, okay, I understand why you got arrested here and there. Like, clearly, like, you're doing God's work, so to speak.
I know. Keep watching. Guys, I get it. Okay.
I'm laughing at myself. You don't know why I'm laughing.
Still, I'm sitting here like, oh, they can't keep getting away with it. And then sure enough, they keep getting away with it. And I was like, oh. And then Dean hits it with I can go for some pea soup. Keep throwing back because she threw up pea soup,
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
So,
that's actually what they used.
I don't know if that's what they used. I could have been making it, but that's what it looked like. And yeah, so really good callback. They get off scot-free and her partner's dead. And
I like when they ask about the car and she's like, don't even try. Okay. Yeah. They're going to leave the Impala and they don't even show that. You just,
they just drive it. She's like, it's in the impound lot. Don't even try it.
It's like, I just rebuilt that thing.
Yeah. And so season 2, episode 8, this is Crossroad Blues. This is all about hellhounds, which come to collect after
first introduction.
Yeah. People make deals in the bar with a demon 10 years prior and they come a collecting. So what kind of fun facts do you got for this one?
So this one, when I first watched this episode, I actually Googled the person because I was genuinely curious because it sounded like a real song. So this episode opens and you hear a song being played by the artist Robert Johnson, and it is actually him singing. So he was a very young and by all accounts untalented. This is a quote that I found. I'm not calling him untalented boy who in the early 1920s, I have to specify that now, I suppose. We're in the early 20s now. When he was in his late teens, would hang around bars listening to the blues musicians of the day. He dreamed of being able to play like them. From accounts of his contemporaries, he disappeared for a few months, and when he resurfaced, he could play blues better than everyone. He shot to fame overnight, practically overnight, and his music is featured, or he does feature many occult references. And so the legend grew that he had sold his soul to the devil in return for talent and fame. Sadly, he died when he was 27 under mysterious circumstances. There are several different accounts of his death, and he left behind at least 3 women claiming to be his widow. It's not known if or where he was buried, and to this day, he remains an artistic legend. And those who do remember him maintain till they died that they had never seen anything like him before or since.
That is...
So it's actually sad.
Yeah, no. And, the whole crossroads, you sell your soul, blah, blah, blah there. This episode was fun. Because you get the hellhounds, and then you get more of Dean struggling to come to terms. He always had a feeling that his dad sacrificed himself for his life, but it isn't until it isn't until he sees the demon who's like, let's make a deal. And your dad died giving his life for you. That must kill you inside and blah, blah, blah. And it confirms pretty much that, yeah, that's what happened. So Dean has to live with that. And he's like, why did he do that? And the demon's basically like, I'll give you with your dad, but I'll come collecting in 10 years. And he gets clever. The demon knows at first he was trying to trick it, and then he does. And they end up making a deal that, hey, I'll let you out if you let old dude go, break the contract, get out of here kind of deal. And so that's what ends up happening. I don't really have too much to say about this episode other than I just really enjoy that there's a lot of human elements to it. Like, we're not just brushing past their father dying. We're giving complex emotions to these characters who do a job. You see Dean struggling with having to kill people. You see him struggling with his dad dying. You see Sam struggling as the younger brother, and Dean has to look out for him. So there's a lot of complex emotions with these characters, which, add layers to them. And so I think the writing there is really cool and something that I never thought would have I thought it was always just kind of like a slapstick demon kind of show, but no, in these early seasons, you really are getting a lot of complexity. So I slept on that big time. And that's what I enjoy.
They do a good job of the humor and the dark and the emotions and the, a balance of it. But before Josh started watching it, I feel like he would only come in on the emotional scenes. So he's always like, what are you watching?
Oh God, feelings.
And then he came in for one episode, and Dean said to this one girl who you meet one day, Charlie, the girl we actually talked to at Fan X, that I was like, oh, she's from Supernatural. I'm going to talk to her. So she's a big nerd in the show and in real life. Mm-hmm. And she says, I love you to Dean in a friendly way. And he goes, I know. And Josh goes, what are you watching? This is stupid. I'm like, that was a Star Wars reference, Josh.
Idiots. Stupid idiots.
But now that he's watched the show, he understands that it's not cheesy.
He gets it. He just gets it finally. Now, this next episode 9, I really enjoyed this one because it gave me zombie vibe. It's Croatoan, which is a town infected with an evil disease. And I like this because it's like very Left 4 Dead zombie kind of vibe to it, right? I mean, the locals start going crazy, killing. It reminds me of the movie The Crazies. If you've never watched that movie, it's an old, not really, it's like mid 2000s, and it's got Timothy Olyphant in it, I believe it is. And it's about people, they get infected and they start going crazy. It's not really zombie. It's kind of like the rage virus you see in 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later. So it was really cool. So they start killing each other, and they don't know who to trust. Are you infected? This or that? And so they hunker down. Sam gets exposed to it, but it turns out he's immune. So apparently this was based on
as they expected.
Of course, yes. So this is based on a real island. Dr. Lee tells the brothers that the next town over is Sidewinder, which is a reference to the town of the same name used in The Shining, where the Overlook Hotel is located. So that's pretty cool.
So yeah, have you heard of Croatoan?
No.
I should bring Kaylee out here. So the Croatoan was a real island with Native Americans, and I guess there were English settlers too. And basically, somebody left and was like coming back, and when they came back, everybody was gone, and it was like Croatoan was like written on a tree or something, and it was a mystery that I thought hadn't been solved. But then I thought in the past few years they did solve it, and that they had just moved to another island. But there was some truth to it.
Well,
I might need to look more into it. And
that happens in this. Like everybody just disappears in this town, and she's like,
"Yeah,
I'm just gonna stay here." The doctor's like, "I'll just stay here," but it's like,
here we go.
It was really eerie to me, I guess, because everybody's just gone, and there was no explanation.
Yeah, so there was an article, August 2020. It said the Croatoan mystery of the lost Roanoke colonoscopy. I know. Colony may finally be solved. So I don't want to read this all, on here, but I'll look into this and I'll give a little recap when we do our next episode. So, because there is more to that, but I do remember, like, because my daughter one day was like, actually, they solved that, and because she's a history major.
Yeah.
So I get history lessons all the time.
I didn't realize they solved that. That's cool. Yeah, I thought this was an eerie episode. Really great. Like I said, had vibes like The Crazies. So check out that movie if you're looking for something similar. Do it.
Croatoan does come up again in the future in a interesting, somewhat entertaining episode.
Well,
that's all I will say.
Well, moving on. Episode 10. This is the last episode I've watched so far until we get done with this recording, and then I'm going to go watch more. Haha. But this is
the
where
next one is dolls.
Visions. So it turns out that somebody else, this case, Ava, starts getting visions, and her vision is of Sam walking in and a grenade blowing him to pieces, which is not how grenades work, but we're just not going to leave that. Grenades don't blow people. They send shrapnel. Okay, never mind. Anyways, this is where
next you're going to say ghosts aren't real.
Gordon appears again in this. Surprise! He ends up trying to kill Sam because
surprise, motherfucker.
It turns out that he has some resources. Sam again. Nothing good happens from splitting up. My God, they split up, and so they end up doing their. He goes to Indiana. Is where Sam goes. Dean, Ellen, where's he at? And she's like, "You're right. I gotta," because he goes and sees Ellen first, and then turns out Gordon.
She's like, "I'm not gonna do what you kids try to do to me. Like, he's here. Go get him."
Yeah, and then Gordon's like,
Bobby would have done the same thing.
Yeah, it's true. Gordon has his own resources inside of the roadhouse. So somebody's snitching. And so he basically captured a demon, and the demon slipped that Sam's going to kind of be responsible. He's going to turn and fight with the demons in the upcoming war. And so the yellow-eyed man, I guess, is trying to bring about some war with the demons, and he's using these people as ways to fight against humanity. And it looks like Sam is going to be that. And Dean struggled. He's like, Sam wouldn't do that. And he's captured, and we thought Sam died. We knew Sam didn't die, but there was one point where Sam is punching with his broken arm. And I was like, sir, your arm is broken. Ow.
So I was listening to a podcast today on it, because I'm trying to listen to the Then and Now podcast while you're watching these for the fun facts. The stunt double, they had a cast on the stunt double, obviously. So it was probably the stunt double punching with their non-broken arm.
I don't care. Ow.
Yeah, true.
Well, apparently, though, your other fun fact is that when Dean and Sam are running from Gordon at the end, so instead of killing Gordon, Gordon gets his butt kicked, and as they're running away, Gordon's shooting at them, dual wielding. And anyways, I just started blasting. Pew, pew. And they jump into the ditch. Well, Dean, Jensen Ackles, falls into the ditch, funny enough, which I need to go back and
rewatch that scene. I do.
Because I didn't catch it, but the editors liked it and they kept it in. So I got to go rewatch that scene, even though I just watched it last night, to see if I can see him falling in. And it turns out Dean had called the cops. And so the cops go and they take Gordon. So that's the end of Gordon right now. But
for now,
this is where we leave off because, backtracking to the previous episode, one of the dudes pulled the old Meg trick, slit my man's throat. There's one character, I was like, the army guy. Well, he gets his throat slit into the cup, and they're basically like, we knew Sam was immune. Ha ha ha. And it's like, I think he's ready. So things are going to start getting ready to go down. Now, Dean has to struggle with the fact that Sam could potentially turn on them. Sam doesn't know any of this yet. Dean had to break it to Sam that before their dad died, this was another episode that basically like, hey, I have to take care of you, and it could come to me having to kill you, Dad said, and so that's what causes the rift initially. And
so that means Dad had found out what Yellow Eyes did to Sam and these other children, and Dean still doesn't know.
Yeah. So things are getting spicy, folks. The apocalypse is coming. Things are getting spicy. And so that's kind of where I left off. And I'm excited to see where we go, because now I'm like, before I was like lounging back, like, yeah, this is decent. But then once that started going down, I was like, oh, he's going to turn, you say. Oh, a war. Oh, where's John Constantine?
Oh.
So that's
John Constantine. That was Kripke. I'll tell you when we get there. This is hard.
It is. It's fun though. I'm having fun, and I'm the more I watch it, the more I get invested. And so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I just finished season 2, episode 10. Follow along with our other ones if you want to catch my thoughts, if you care about that sort of thing. I'm not going to stop, even if you don't. Just to be honest with you,
I think it's fun listening to someone who doesn't know what's going to happen. It's a lot of fun, especially because Supernatural there's so much foreshadowing. I'm sure some of it was intentional. I'm sure some of it wasn't. And there's just so many things you don't see coming. And just, in the rewatch, you used to say, oh, how do you guys all watch this over and over? Because, Ian and Noam and I, we've had Ian and Noam on before to talk Supernatural. Like, how are you guys rewatching this? Because it just gets better. And when you go back, you're like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. And like, there's an episode coming up soon where there's so much foreshadowing in it. And it's just like, when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
It was the whole time.
Right. The writing was on the wall. But the next one you're watching is going to have dolls.
Oh, Jesus. Great.
Did you watch The Runaways with Marvel's Runaways?
Nah, not really.
Okay. So one of the parents is in the next one. Like most of the parents from that show are in Supernatural at some point.
All right.
I just find it very random.
I'm loving the cameos. So I'm here
the cameos
for
are
it.
fun.
The cameos are fun. Everything's fun. I think I didn't have my needle was firmly in the middle as far as like my favorite character. I think I'm leaning Dean now. Dean's kind of something about Sam. Just he seems a little too whiny.
Yes,
and I don't like
100%.
So Sam's a little too whiny. Where Dean's like, we're getting stuff done. This is how it is. Like I don't know, and I like so I'm leaning more towards Dean as of right now. That could change. Who knows? But
hey, I was Sam the first watch.
Yeah, so Dean
I didn't turn Dean until later.
Yeah.
It's my boy Blue. But the episode after that, Night Shifter, you have to be paying attention though. There's a Doctor Who reference. That's pretty fun.
All right. I will do my best. And
do or do not.
If I watch it tonight and I text you, like, oh, there it was. I'll let you know. But yeah,
I think I've even posted it on our Instagram like 2 years ago.
You probably did. Look, it's fun because now I can go back and see all these things. It's like the writing was, she's told me so many things about this. And I just never paid attention, but now I am.
When you get to a certain part, I even did this recently. I sent on one of our old TikToks, like, hey, you can watch this now. I will say Gordon, when the next time we see Gordon, that's the I'm Batman clip.
Oh, okay.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
All right. Well, that's been our exciting up to season 2, episode 10. By next week, I'll probably have season 2 done. Who knows? I'm willing to bet I probably will at this point. So follow along. TikTok is where I hop on once in a while. Lauren shares clips. I like to be like, hey, this is my thought so far, because some people are following along. And yeah, we will catch you in a couple of days with our Marvel episodes. Check that out with Sean from Metalcore Nerds. Check out all of our other episodes. Subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and leave a review if you're enjoying it, because that's how our podcast is going to grow. And I know it feels very shillish to say that, but hey, come hang out. Come on YouTube, come interact, and let us know if you have any questions, thoughts, things you want to hear, things you want to see, your favorite moments from Supernatural. We'll talk about it. So thanks for hanging out. We'll see you later on, my dudes. Cheers.